How's it going, everyone? I'm Dylan, this is All You Can Board, and it's time to look at some upcoming board games once again. 7 new games that are on my radar that should be on yours, at least in my opinion. There are so many games, obviously, all the time getting announced. Some of them we get announced, go on Kickstarter, or get teased, and we don't even actually get them for a couple years. That tends to be a trend because it can take a while to obviously produce these games and now get them shipped across oceans to us and whatnot. But there are some awesome games that have come on my radar that I want to talk about. This is one of the months I'm actually really excited about. I'm always excited about these, but this one specifically has a bunch that I'm really curious to try out. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump into it. There's 7 games here, a couple that are from the same designer, and some that have, some shared systems. But overall, I think these are 7 really unique titles. So let's jump right into it. I'm just going to preface again, it is ridiculously hot in my condo. You've probably heard me say this in a couple of videos, but I am getting air conditioning installed in the next few days, so I won't have to put up my hair anymore. I won't have to wear shorts underneath this video. I won't have to have a fan going crazy above me trying to cool this place. I think it's like 28.5 degrees Celsius in my condo right now, which maybe for some of you that's the ideal temperature, but I'm sort of a like 22 kind of guy, and it is really stinking hot in here. Anyways, let's jump right into it. The first game we're going to look at is Terra Nova. So if you have been watching our channel for a while, you've seen me talk in a bunch of videos, you know that I have not played Terra Mystica, but it is probably at the top of my list, one of the top games on my list that I know once I play I will likely enjoy it, and that I really do want to play. I don't own a copy, I don't know someone who has it, so I haven't had a chance to play the physical version, and that's kind of how I want to experience it the first time. I could be playing on Board Game Arena or Tabletop Simulator or anything, but I really want to experience that with the physical version. Kind of same thing with Gaia Project as well. But that being said, the fact that Terra Nova got announced, which is sort of a re-implementation, or not a re-implementation, but yeah, I guess you can call it that, a different version of Terra Mystica in a different package, has me pretty excited, because this will just be a new way to just kind of jump in there. I'll still want to play the original, but it's just kind of a new place, a new jumping off point that I won't feel quite as behind the times because of not having played that. So they do call it a simplified version of Terra Mystica. Plays up to 4 players. It lists it as a 60 to 90 minute game, which would be, I think, quicker than Terra Mystica. Let's quickly double check here. I'm pretty sure Terra Mystica is listed as a longer game. Yeah, 60 to 150 minutes. So I mean, at its base level, probably 2 players, maybe it's going to play the same amount, but it's definitely, as you'll see from some of the photos and stuff, takes a lot of that essence of the board and everything from Terra Mystica, but it's just in a more simplified, slimmed down package. So simplified can mean a lot of things. You can take an amazing game and say, we're going to make a simplified, more accessible version, but everything you lose in translation are the things that made the original special. And in that case, why simplify it? So I don't want to say for sure this is going to be, a great game or one that you're going to play instead of Terra Mystica. But for me, it'll just be interesting to potentially be able to jump in and play a simplified, quicker version from a company that, I enjoy all their titles, Capstone Games, because they put a lot of work into the production value, while still, wanting to, revisit the original and actually be able to compare them and see which one I'd prefer to play, if one plays quicker than the other, what it loses compared to the original. Either way, anything I hear about Terra Mystica, Gaia Project, that system, if they're going to make another version with a different theme, has me excited just because of how much I know about Terra Mystica and how much I think I will enjoy it. So Terra Nova, as soon as I saw, I got very excited. I showed Carlo my phone, being like, oh my god, they're making a Terra Nova. They're doing a Terra Mystica re-implementation. I think I showed him during the 24-hour stream. I pulled up my phone to show him. So he probably doesn't remember because he was delirious, and so was I. So that is Terra Nova. I'm pretty excited. I don't think there's a listed release date or anything yet, but I would. It's listed as 2022. So it would be great if we got it in North America sometime this year, and if so, I'm going to try to get my hands on it. All right, next one we're going to talk about, I really want to, stress how excited I am for this one. This is called Evergreen. Evergreen, the reason it's on my list is because you've probably heard me talk about Photosynthesis quite a few times. It's a game that it falls off my radar every so often, even though it's in my collection. I play it until I play it again, and then I remember how much I enjoy Photosynthesis and some of the systems that are in there. Evergreen is from the same designer, which I've been hesitating to try to say his name because I'm pretty sure I'm going to absolutely butcher it as I normally do. I think it's Orichalque, but I'm not 100% certain. Regardless, it is the exact same designer, and it definitely takes essences of Photosynthesis and the design and the theme, and kind of is packaging in a new game with new ideas. So in Photosynthesis, you were basically going through the entire life cycle of a tree. You plant seeds on the board into different locations, and different locations closer to the center would get you more potential for points. And you started a seed, then you go to small tree, medium tree, large tree, and then after large tree, you convert that into a point token. If you're one of the first person to convert to that point token, you would get more points. If you take too long to convert to the point tokens on that location, you're going to get less points. So in this one, you're still going through, kind of planting here. The only difference here is that it says you're going to be planting seeds and growing trees, which is the same thing as Photosynthesis. But there's going to be these biome cards, and the biome cards are going to be in this common pool, apparently, and it's going to determine which area of the planet you're going to be able to develop in that round. The biomes that aren't taken become more valuable in future rounds. So if no one goes to a certain biome, in future rounds, if you now try to go to that biome and plant in it, it's going to be worth more. You're going to get more points. So it kind of emulates that idea in the first one, or in Photosynthesis, where you have to get to the center of the board. In this one, it's kind of depending on the economy and what people are taking and what they're not taking, which I really like. I actually almost think that depending how that plays and is executed, I would prefer that by the sound of it, because it would be more flexible instead of always being sort of the same thing. And it's just a neat system. So you're going to try to create a huge forest. You're going to grow trees, plant bushes, place lakes. There's obviously more going on than Photosynthesis in that regard, while using the power of nature to gain extra actions. So it's like almost taking the base kind of concept of Photosynthesis and repackaging it into this new game, but with new ideas and taking what worked, and maybe some of my favorite things from Photosynthesis. And also, what it seems like from all the pictures, I don't see that they're doing any sort of like big, cardboard trees again, which, as much as that makes the game look beautiful when it's on the table, it is one of those things where it's not quite necessary. There would have been an easier way to demonstrate that you're, leveling up your tree or growing your tree to different sizes. In photosynthesis specifically, because there was the whole thing about casting light, having those cardboard trees was such a good representation of, oh, this is taller than this tree. It would cast a shadow on it. So I know why they did it, and it kind of works for that game. But being able to slim down the package, have it be less setup and kind of just, more focused, I think will be neat. Regardless, I'm so excited to try this out because of how much I enjoyed the photosynthesis system, that I keep saying photosynthesis with a word that starts with S right after. So I'm just setting myself up for failure there. That I'm just really, really excited. This might be the one I'm most excited for on the list, or at least it's up there in the top 2 or 3. So I'm really, really, looking forward to it. So, and it actually does mention, I kind of missed it here, but it does specifically say, ideally you can concentrate your trees in the most fertile areas, but without them overshadowing one another, as you also want them to collect as much light as possible. So they're even taking the light system from photosynthesis as well. And for all I know, they do have cardboard trees, and I've just completely missed the photo where they are. But regardless, I'm super pumped for this. I cannot wait to try it. It says 2022, so I hope I'm able to get my hands on it this year, and then I can compare it to photosynthesis, and maybe this will be a version that replaces the original for me. Either way, super pumped. All right, next game we're going to look at is a brand new Uwe Rosenberg game, so obviously it's going to be on this list. This is Atiwa. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know the full pronunciation there, but that's what it looks like. This is it's considered an advanced level game according to the box from Lookout Games, and it's listed as 30 to 120 minutes. I would imagine 30 would be the solo mode, because it lists as a solo mode. 120 would be 4 players. Seems like a pretty standard length, but if being able to crank out a 2-player game in an hour would be a great ideal length for an Uwe Rosenberg game. So I think that sounds great. There is a whole lot of description based on this, or written about this game, but a lot of it is sort of about the theme. The theme itself is kind of a neat thing that they're doing. They're focusing on the fruit bats and how beneficial that they are, and just how beneficial they are, and that's sort of the theme and what the game is focused on, which is really, really neat. So there's a whole write-up on that if you want to check out the Board Game Geek page. Aside from that, it just says that you'll be developing a small community near the Atiwa region, creating housing for new families, sharing your newly gained knowledge on the negative effects of mining and the importance that the fruit bats have for the environment. The fact that it says creating housing for your families sounds like, standard Uwe fare. We've seen that in Agricola and a lot of his other games and stuff like that too. Maybe you'll probably have to feed your family at the end of each round. I don't know for sure, but that's usually a staple. Honestly, without having delved into too much of like the rules, and I don't even know how much of the rules are actually available to really delve into, the fact that it is a worker placement game, or at least it's listed as a worker placement game, with variable player powers, and the images that I'm putting on the screen of the boards and the pieces and the way that they sort of all interact with each other, and you have these little like squares that have like nine squares in them, a 3x3 grid that you're placing stuff onto, different tokens and animals. The fact that it has a beautiful look like that is an Uwe game, is an advanced level Uwe game from Lookout Games. I really could have just seen the cover. Again, not because I think the cover is so amazing, but just seeing that it's an advanced level Uwe game from Lookout Games, and I wouldn't even really need to know anything else. I would be trying it out. It would be on my list. I'm an Uwe fan, so is Carlo. Cannot wait to try this out and see what is in store for us. And also, I could have sworn that I heard a way back that Howler Tau was his last big box game. Maybe this isn't considered a big box game because it's not going to be quite as big, but the fact that it's an advanced level game, I mean, I'm not complaining. Give me all the Uwe games you want, but really pumped about this one. Can't wait to try it out. All right, another game I might mispronounce, and this is Orichalque. I honestly don't know. I am not the guy to go to for pronunciations. This is a Bruno Cathala, Johannes Goopy, Goopy. Oh my God, why do I even bother? Why? I need to have Carlo here for every time I do any sort of filming, just off screen, kind of fact checking me for all my pronunciations. Regardless, I am a huge Bruno Cathala fan, and he does a lot of joint designs with this designer and just designs in general. And this one specifically stuck out to me because of the way that the flow of the game, like the base rules on a surface level, sound, because it just sounds very simple but can lead to a lot of decision making and kind of adjusting your strategy in each game you play with variability, kind of in the same way that Cascadia does. It's a very simple rule set, but just the fact that you have to take two things jointly together can mean you have to say, okay, well, if I want this, I got to take this. And there's a way to circumvent that by using this token, but I have to kind of like find a way to use both most of the time. That's kind of what's going on here. So they call it a fast-paced strategy game similar to a short 4X, which is obviously pretty cool because 4Xs are usually, much more heavy experiences and ones that I don't always gravitate towards or play. The fact that this is sort of trying to like create a short experience there, but at a really like simplistic level, kind of is exciting to me. So it says each player has their own island board to explore and develop, and on each turn they choose a set of one exploration tile that you're going to be adding to your board and one action card that's going to determine the action you can take that round. So I like that because you may want a tile, but you have to also keep in mind what action it's going to be paired with, because that's going to be the action you're going to be doing this round. So if you look at the image I'm kind of putting up on screen here, or I already have, it specifically lists on the back of the box that you're basically first selecting your action card and its associated terrain tile. You can see you'll have like an option of like say 4 from the market, and then you're placing your terrain tile into your island as your second action, and then finally you're performing the card's action. So really, really neat that you're going to have to kind of like not only match like the terrain tiles you want, but also have to determine which action cards you specifically are taking depending on what that's going to mean for your round. Honestly, because it's Bruno Cathala, I have a lot of trust that I'm going to enjoy it on some level. That's why I kind of jumped right to the top of my excited list. But the fact that at its base level, the way it plays is so simplistic, but it seems to offer so much strategy and depth, that I'm just really excited to explore it. So I'm always going to be excited for Bruno Cathala games, but this one specifically, and also the artwork. Like, look at the actual cover art itself. I just think it's beautiful. I think it's inviting. I think it's bright. Cannot wait to try this out. Playtime seems really good. I think it's listed at like 45 minutes or like some range that includes 45 minutes. So yeah, 45 to 60. Super exciting game. Cannot wait to play it. All right, you thought we were done with Bruno Cathala? We're not. We have one more. This is a co-design with a different designer. I think it's Ludovic Moblanc. Again, once I'm just picking all the games that I just can't pronounce. This is Kyudo. Again, might be mispronouncing that. What have I done? This one's pretty neat. This seems like honestly a really simple game, but I like having games in my collection that are just like quick playing, under 30 minutes, 20-minute games. That depending on the group I have over, depending if it's just like when you're looking for something to do, but we don't want an in-depth experience. Roll and rates are great for that. I have a bunch of options, but after a while, if you play the same ones, you kind of want to freshen things up. This is a roll and write, or maybe it's not considered roll and write. It's a roll and Yeah, I think it would be considered a roll, right? It's just it seems like a very simplistic one. Either way, it involves dice. But basically, it's an archery themed game where you're gonna have a board that actually has the full like archery, circle with all the different colored rings that kind of go towards the bullseye, and you're gonna be rolling dice that have different colors on them or arrows on them, and depending on the combination of things you roll in the dice, you're gonna be doing different things. And the whole game is built around spectators. So I think everyone has 20 spectators, and you're trying to maintain spectators or gain them, and you're trying to take spectators away from your opponents by doing better in archery. And as soon as you have all your spectators gone, you're eliminated, and the last person left standing is obviously the best at archery, and they win. So you're going to be crossing off different marks at all the different colored rings, and you're also going to be crossing off things on the flags above that are going to give you powers that can take spectators away from your opponents quicker, or get double marks on your own board. So honestly, it seems very, very simple. This isn't going to be, like a Fleet the Dice game or Three Sisters or I'm trying to. There's other like complex roll and writes that lead to comboing where you're doing this and that combos into this, that combos into this. Like it's not that kind of roll and write. From what I gather, this is a really simplistic like play in 20-minute. Like let's just see who can do the best, and maybe we'll play a couple of rounds kind of games. So it's not one that I'm necessarily like I have to play this year, but I'm excited because I always like to get these new small box games into my collection to sort of replace ones that I've had for a while or give me new options for when people come over that have already played. That's pretty clever, and I've already introduced Sequoia to, and we've already played a bunch of Patchwork and things like that. So having new options is great, and this is one that I'm excited to try out to see if it will make my collection and stay in my collection. All right, our second last one is one you might have heard of. I think it was it might have at some point been featured on BGG, but I think it was I noticed on Twitter and a couple other places people talking about it. This is Starship Captains. So Starship Captains is from CGE, and it is designed by Peter B. Hofgaard. I think I got that one right. So turning things around. This is a game that, I don't have a lot of, I'm not sure if the rules exist online, as you know from me mentioning in previous videos. When I'm excited about a game, I don't like to just go and like pick up the rule book and figure out exactly how the game plays. I kind of like to do that after I have it in my hands and I'm exploring it. That way I just kind of have to have an overview to make sure it's something I'm interested in. That's sort of where I'm at with this one. It seems to incorporate a lot of things I enjoy. It's listed as a 2 to 4 player Euro style game, which mixes action selection and engine building, which are two things I usually love in games, and I'm a big fan of Euro games as it stands. But this one also has a theme that I don't think I've seen in a Euro game that I've played, where it's sort of like the Star Trek space theme. That's clearly what it's pulling inspiration from. But it says you're gonna manage a diverse crew of cadets, androids, and officers, each with different special roles and capabilities. You're gonna be earning medals. You can promote and train your crew with those medals for even greater effectiveness. Similarly, you can upgrade your ship with powerful engine building technology for maximum synergy. So it's really diving fully into the theme of being on a spaceship. If you know from me, like a space theme is not something I gravitate towards. If I have the choice, I will always choose the fantasy theme over the space theme. And in fact, it's one of the reasons I would rather first check out Terra Mystica than I would Gaia Project. I've used that example a lot because it's one of the easiest ones to kind of show what I'm talking about. But this one specifically, because of the way that they've leaned into sort of the, I don't want to call it cutesy, but the more cartoony look to it, I just actually really enjoy the art style. I think it is really different, and it doesn't, I think it's more the heavy spaced type themes that I don't gravitate towards as much. A game that, a video game that I actually really enjoyed that would have been an outlier to me, and one that normally I wouldn't, would be Mass Effect. That kind of like heavy space theme is something that I just don't always really get that into. It's one of the reasons that Starfield, everyone's talking right now video game wise, and I'm just like, I'll check it out, but I'm not like hotly anticipated or anything like that. Starship Captains leans into a theme that I can get on board with a little bit easier when it comes to space themes, and it differentiates itself from something like, say, Beyond the Sun, which is, again, that more heavy space theme. So I'm really excited to check this one out. Again, I don't know a whole lot about it, but just based on the fact that it's a Euro-style game that is combining engine building with action selection, with the theme and the cards and the little components that we have seen about the game look really good. I'm just kind of curious to learn more. So I would almost say that if this was the series called Games I'm Curious About, this would have been like number one on the list. I'm excited. I have tempered slight excitement, but I wanted to include it on here because it is one that I'm keeping on my radar, kind of keeping tabs on, and as soon as I can get a chance to take a look at it, I'm 100% going to be trying to get it to the table to see, where it lands for me and what it does that I think is unique or what it does that isn't unique. So Starship Captains, I definitely want to check it out. The last one we're going to look at, I saved one of the really good ones for last here, and this is a re-implementation of a game that Carlo and I haven't played, but have really, really wanted to play for a long time, and honestly, it's one of the gaps in our board game knowledge that we need to check out. I'm talking about War of the Ring, and this is the new version, War of the Ring, the card game. So this is going to be a 90 to 120 minute card game. So this is almost a 2-hour card game, or is a 2-hour card game. So it's still going to be a pretty heavy experience. The difference here is I believe War of the Ring is a 2-player game. This is one that plays 2 to 4, but I think it's specifically meant to be played at 2 or 4. It like highlights that it's meant to be a game in teams, either 1v1 or 2v2. That might mean that there's a 3-player mode that's sort of, not ideal or does something a little bit differently to accommodate, but is not the way it's meant to be played. That's kind of what I gather here. But regardless, again, this is one of those games where I don't know a whole ton outside of thematics. I don't know a whole ton about how War of the Ring plays. I just know it's a game that's highly regarded. I am a Lord of the Rings fan, and I know that it's something I need to play at some point. So hearing that they're kind of taking a game, it's almost like Terra Nova in that. We start with Terra Nova, which is a re-implementation, and now we're ending with this. It's kind of the same thing. The re-implementations of games I haven't played, so they have me excited because here's potentially a different way for me to approach the games, or it gives me more incentive to try the originals, because now I'm like, okay, I can try the original that is dated, and I don't mean dated in a bad way, I just mean like, it's been out for a while is the better way to say that, and this new version, and it gives me this new thing that I can do where I can just try to play both versions and compare them, potentially either for content for the channel or just for our own knowledge, our own fun factor. So that's specifically has me excited, and of course the fact that it's Lord of the Rings themed. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan of the original trilogy. Hobbit, not so much. The book, sure, but like not the movies. I think they stretched that out a little bit. So the fact that the thematics are gonna land with me is obviously a big plus. Honestly, I'm just kind of interested to see what they do by turning this game into a card game. I'm interested to hear other people who have played a ton of War of the Rings, what they end up thinking about how they're implementing it into a card game. And I'm excited to sort of have both versions and sit down with Carlo or whoever and play both and be able to say, okay, is this a cash-in? Is this sort of like, hey, here's this really popular game, how can we bring it back in 2022 in a new way that's not just like, a second edition? Like, how can we reignite this brand? Or is this, hey, we have this great idea, let's re-implement this game, this is going to be more accessible, or this is going to be, more strategic, or this is going to be the preferred version. I'm always interested kind of what a company's mindset is with that. I always use the example of, Lost Cities is a game that Carlo and I absolutely love. It has had so many versions because it's a well-regarded game, and so they keep kind of cashing on the Lost Cities train. Specifically, like Lost Cities Roll and Write, for instance, is a game that probably doesn't need to exist. It doesn't do anything unique for the genre. It could be used as a really small, like, introduction to roll and writes, but that's sort of all it could really exist as. Otherwise, it's just cashing on that Lost Cities name. But then you have other games that, take a name and re-implement it, something like Biblios, Quill, and Parchment. I use this example a lot, that it absolutely stands on its own and it has a reason for existing. So I'm really curious when we do re-implementation, stuff like that. My dog's barking at dogs out the window there. Which route they're going, so that's why this one's on my list. I cannot wait to try it out. And there you have it, 7 new upcoming games that I'm excited about. As always, let me know in the comments which of these games wasn't on your radar and that now is, or that you were also anticipating, or any other thoughts you have about these. If there's any other info that I haven't mentioned here, or maybe haven't read about them that you think I might want to know about, or if there's any games that I didn't include on this list that you are super pumped about, or that you were thinking, oh man, Dylan's probably so excited about this and you're surprised isn't on the list. Maybe I just didn't hear about it. Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, as soon as we ever get any of these games into our hands, we'll obviously have some sort of comments or content or reviews or whatever the case may be on our channel, because I obviously cannot wait to play them. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.